It's always a good sign when I'm watching an episode and I'm leaning in a little bit like this, leaning in a little more, leaning in a little more, right? It's always a bad episode when I'm like this. I'm just kind of letting the episode passively go by, which is what I've done for this entire season so far, but we can't seem to shake him. What do we do? I got an idea. Let's give them exactly what they want. Full stop. Thankfully, they thought we were disgusting, which is what I had assumed. Are you mentally prepared for the Salat that ate its tail? The first good episode of Strange New World Season 3, where I don't have to have any kind of caveat or qualifying statement. I can just say it's good. And therefore, this video is not going to perform well, because people like it when things suck. And this time, it doesn't. If you're wondering what a Salat is, it's like a, call it a Vulcan saber-toothed tiger-like creature, if you know that thing from ancient Earth history. Or was it saber-toothed cat? I don't know. They keep changing the names of these things. It's a big monster with a tail. The Salat, who ate its tail. What happens when an animal catches its tail? Or say it's a dog that catches the car, the thing it's always chasing. It gets to its destination. I'm reminded of one time when Spock said, what was it? Paraphrasing, obviously, because I can't get the exact quote. Although it may seem illogical, you will find often that after all, having is not so good a feeling as wanting. Right? I think Spock said something like that, which is a line that I love. What happens when you catch your tail? What happens when you bite off more than you can chew? Happens 2 times in this episode, one thematically and one very physically. Let's see what's happening in the plot, the story, the characters of the 6th episode of Strange New World Season 3. We're over halfway through. This is the Salat who ate its tail. We're starting off in the Farragut. This is the first officer's log. Who's the first officer of the U.S.S. Farragut? Captain Kirk. Except he's not Captain Kirk. Getting a little bit ahead of myself there. It's James T. Kirk. James T. Kirk is the first officer of the Farragut, and this is his log, talking about, what is it, Helicon Gamma, something like that, this planet they're going to. They're doing a survey. He's reminiscing about how bored he is. He's bored. He's not on his 5-year journey to explore Strange New Worlds and whatnot. This being Strange New Worlds as a show. He's finally going to a Strange New World, which we finally did last episode, so, commendations for that. But this time, he wants to go lowest orbit possible, which is boots on the ground. But Captain Varel wants to, play it by the book, play it safe. We're going to stay up here in orbit, in space that is, and we're going to do our survey from here. Immediately after Kirk suggests that they go there on foot, quote-unquote, all hell breaks loose. There ends up being some very strange a disturbance on the surface of this planet. It essentially destroys the planet, and we don't have any idea what it is before we get to the intro of this episode. That's our teaser. We're standing there as this planet blows up out of nowhere. Good thing they didn't listen to James T. Kirk and can go down there in person. It could have been bad. Setting the stage, really, for this entire episode, and I must say, it's thematically on point. Everything is hitting the same beat. The macrocosm of the story reflects the microcosm, which is very important for your themes. What do you think when your suggestion is to go do something dangerous and then immediately find out that that dangerous thing actually happened and it could have killed everybody? Right? Risk is their business, but sometimes risk, it's not, the juice is not worth the squeeze, as it were. And this would have been one of those times. After getting the ship back under control, while having many casualties, one including the captain, although I don't think she is dead. The CMO is certainly dead, as in they have a blanket over their body, as we find out when the Enterprise crew beams over to support the Farragut. We got 2 ships on screen here. We're getting some good ship action, unlike the last episode. It's really convenient that we managed to get the Enterprise crew, specifically the ones we remember, on screen with James T. Kirk in this episode, as James T. Kirk assumes command of the Farragut. Convenient. And if I may be so, bold, brave, to say that's what's killing this episode, yeah, we're enjoying it, but at what cost? The cost of contrivance, being, derivative. I know this is a prequel, and therefore this is prequelitis, but the being derivative and some of the contrivances, that's what's keeping this episode from great. Notice I said good. It is good, but that's why it's falling short of great. Just to give you a teaser for my eventual score, Spock, Uhura, thankfully Linnea beams away, therefore deleting all possible romance things between Kirk and Linnea. Remember that one? When they had some kind of relationship? It's gone. Raise a glass, everybody. Raise a glass. Yep. This is it. We have a Strange New Worlds episode with no romance. Gone. We also have a Strange New Episodes. We have a strange new episode of Strange New Worlds in which the script makes sense. The script is on the ball. The script is locked in. It is not wasting my time. Something happened that sounded New Trekky in the script. Specifically, the navel-gazing, self-interested feelings dialogue that happened, and I was so engaged that when that happened, I checked the time on the stream to see when that was, at like 20 minutes or so, because I couldn't believe that we got this far without, making me, stare down at my shoes and kind of go ho-hum, oh, where am I feel bad. We actually got that far without some, some of the lesser elements of New Trek dialogue in what I would call mainstream New Trek. This isn't Prodigy or Lower Decks. This is your live action, non-Picard Season 3 New Trek material. And I'm glad to say that was the end of it, basically. It happened one moment, specifically, if you know the episode and you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, where Uhura was talking. And it was just a one and done. 20 minutes in, Uhura said something about, oh, we got to help Kirk with blah, 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 because he saved me from blah, 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 and I feel this way, my feelings, and yada, yada, yada. It never came back. This is the power of a script that can get out of its own way for 1 second. This is the power of a script that can focus on what's happening. This is the power of a script that is not insular, that is not involuted, that is not concerned with things that are petty, things that are useless and pointless and not interesting. This is the power of it. Just look at this objectively. Okay, we're going to say it's contrived. We're going to say it's derivative. Okay, it's a prequel. Whatever. Objectively speaking, this is the power of a decent script, decent storyboard, decent editing. This is what you can get out of it. You can get all the way to good. You don't get to great, but you can get to good. Right? Which, sadly, in my opinion, Strange New Worlds has been failing so far this season. Otherwise, mediocre season so far, except for this episode, in my opinion, of course. We need to get the Farragut back in ship shape. Pike is talking to Kirk, and his suggestion is to actually, play it safe, right? Pike wants to play it safe now. There are too many lives on the line, right? So we got to beam over the entire crew of the Farragut and abandon the ship, which, of course, James D. Kirk doesn't want to do. Nobody wants to abandon their ship, least of all me. But the worst comes to pass, and the gigantic creature that generated the tractor beam that destroyed that planet itself, I call it a creature because it looks, frankly, like one. Over-designed, ugly, too complicated, with teeth, even though I'm supposed to believe it's a ship of sorts. A little bit much. I prefer like an understated and weird design rather than a maximalist design that preys on my more innate fears, like big teeth, tentacles. This is New Trek after all. We have tentacles of the robotic kind. And that was one of the problems with this alien ship for this episode. But the Enterprise gets sucked away and eaten by it. Just after Pike was talking about averting risk and saving as many lives as possible. That's rich for Pike. Remember when we took the entire Enterprise down into the atmosphere of a planet to save his girlfriend? on a on an undocumented mission. We'll just take the entire Enterprise on a mission to this planet because, and by the way, we're violating some rules we have with the Klingons to do this with the entire crew. No problem. No problem. I know one thing led to another, and that's why we got the ship involved. But man, Pike is worried about the safety of the crew of the Farragut. Maybe more so in the Enterprise. I don't know. Pike has felt crazy to me so far this season. But I'm glad to say that James T. Kirk ain't feeling so crazy. Because just as they're going to start beaming everybody over to the Enterprise, like I said before, a gigantic alien monster ship scavenger machine eats the Enterprise. And the Farragut now is the hero of the show. And I must say, I did enjoy what I was seeing of the Farragut. Obviously a redress of the Enterprise, but this time with blue accents instead of red and the like. We have on board, after Leanne beamed away, thank you New Trek people for getting rid of Leanne and just having the characters that are not going to get into a fight with each other over who loves who. Although we do have Spock and Chapel, but it never comes to, there's never a point where they kind of stare at each other and thinking about, remember when we were in love? Oh, wasn't that so cool? Oh, gone. Thank you. Spock, Uhura, Scotty, Chapel are the only ones left over from the Enterprise, plus whatever the skeleton crew of the Farragut that we did have now have to figure out how to save the Enterprise. We figure out that the ship that was eating the Enterprise loves a thing called al dentium, as in al dente pasta, when it's got a little bit of a chew to it. Interesting name for the material that they want, given that this machine has teeth and looks like it's going to like chew the ship. Although the Enterprise does end up wrapped in metal New Trek tentacles when it gets subsumed, when it gets enveloped by this enemy ship. Thankfully, they don't get chewed like al dente pasta, although the ship is looking for al dentium. We figure out that the next nearest planet that is rich in this material is inhabited. And we're never going to make it in time to save them. Big problem. You see, in this scenario, we should go contact Starfleet, but that's what Spock says. But we disregard that because needs of the many. I'm surprised Spock didn't say, "Listen, we have a skeleton crew, and the Enterprise basically has its whole crew. Needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Shouldn't we chase them?" I have a feeling that if we contacted Starfleet right quick over subspace, they might say, "Listen, Farragut, you're pretty close. We're sending some ships, but you're on point." I figure that's what they might say, right? You got a skeleton crew. You probably won't be able to do it, but you're not risking that much by trying. I think they would say go ahead, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm only wearing red. I don't get to make the decisions by myself, thankfully. That would be bad if I could. But Kirk ends up suggesting that we, push the ship beyond its limits, much to the chagrin of Scotty. Welcome to TOS, people. We're back, except we're back in weird, hyper real Star Trek pastiche, superimposed over the actual reality, where we're always comparing this show to another show, which means we're never 100% involved. We're always involved in the upper layer of reality. We're never in the plot, which is of course prequelitis in a sense. And it does hurt the episode, but I'll be damned if I wasn't kind of on, engaged, to use another Star Trek term. Engage, haha. Remember when the bald guy used to say engage? And then the guy with the weird hair says hit it? That's Pike. But this is Strange New Worlds. Not any of those other shows. And it's not the Pike show either. This is James T. Kirk on the Farragut. We push our engines too far and we drop out of warp and we're dead in the water. And I know this is James T. Kirk's first time in the big chair, and he kind of makes a mess of it. And we managed to actually kind of show James T. Kirk failing in command without dunking on him too much, without making him seem like a total clown. I was really surprised by that. It would be so easy to make our hero look like an idiot. It's always easy to make someone look stupid. it's very hard to make someone look smart because that requires a smart writer, right? You're only writing something as smart as you are, and you have to be humble in the writer's room with your ideas here to get them, up to snuff. But sadly, this has been lacking a lot in Star Trek recently. But in this one instance, we managed to make Kirk not seem like an idiot, not seem like a loser, but still make mistakes. Okay, it's a fine line. And I think they rode that line in this episode. Kirk bumbles away after complaining to his crew that he doesn't need any more of this talking. I need to just go think. He sits in the boardroom, ponders over a game of 3D chess that he was having with Varel, wondering what her next move would have been, as you would in a chess game. Spock comes in for a little pep talk, and Spock being the brick wall, James T. Kirk just bounces his ideas off him, and then James T. Kirk teaches himself what to do. Very TOS. Again, a finer point from TOS that we kind of managed to get in here. We talk about the salat that ate his tail, and the dog that caught the car. What do you do now when you have command? You always wanted to have command. James T. Kirk says he had ambitions to be the youngest possible captain, and now here he is under such bad circumstances. Be careful what you wish for. Is another theme of this episode that's in full force here. We're firing thematically on all cylinders, which of course is making me immediately engaged in my seat. I could feel myself. It's always a good sign when I'm watching an episode and I'm leaning in a little bit like this, leaning in a little more, leaning in a little more. Right? It's always a bad episode when I'm like this. I'm just kind of letting the episode passively go by, which is what I've done for this entire season so far. But this episode, this is a leaner. I'm leaning in a little bit. I'm leaning in. Good sign. Good signs all around. Spock, after his pep talk to Kirk, Kirk gets reinvigorated, and he says, "Listen, I'm not one for rousing speeches, as I'm about to give a rousing speech right now." And then he continues to say, "I need you to do this, you to do this, you to do this. What's your idea? What are we doing here?" And we get this Star Trek problem solving, but it's with the characters we kind of knew. And I'll be damned if I wasn't getting engaged in Paul Wesley's James T. Kirk here. I'll be damned if I wasn't. There was something about it. He doesn't look right at all. He's not physically. It's the physical problem is there. He doesn't have the right. He's not imposing as James T. Kirk would be, but he's getting the performance right. He's not Pike. That's the most important thing, is that they're managing to do this without aping Pike. He's a little bit more forceful. He's a little bit more direct. Dare I say angry? And I was in. I was in for James T. Kirk in this episode, which makes me worried about whether or not we're going to have the mythical Star Trek Year One show, where it's immediately before the 5-year mission, which they're threatening to do, which they shouldn't do because we don't need any more prequels, such as Strange New Worlds. Whenever you're going backwards, that's a sign of brand death. That's the brand dying. Right? Going forwards is the brand living. Right? Doesn't mean it's going to be good, but it's alive. Going backwards is retreating back into yourself, trying to find what worked before, which is a bad sign, especially when you do it wrong, as often happened in New Trek. Although I am reviewing it, I am watching it, I am trying, I'm being objective. We just don't need more to remake TOS itself as another TV show. If you're totally in prequel town, and on top of that, your prequel involves already established characters, plots, ideas, themes, ships, you can never truly be amazing. You just can't. I'm going to put that forward right now. You can never get to great. You can get to good, but that's about it. Unless we go to the future. Unless we keep going. It was a show about the future that is concerned now with the past, the past that we know, the characters that we knew. Come on. I'm sorry to get all weepy on you, but that's just how I was feeling here, because this is such a good example of almost getting to great, and you just can't do it because of circumstances that are out of the control of the people who are writing this. We needed, a better start to get a better finish with this episode, unfortunately. And it's not the end of the world for the Enterprise. The Enterprise, meanwhile, in her B plot, is trying to figure out how to get out of inside of this alien scavenger vessel. And they call it all kinds of these funny names. Campfire stories about some kind of big thing that was eating everything. I was saying, please don't do the ice cream cone. You know what that is. I was saying, please don't be that. Please don't be that. The Doomsday Machine thing from TOS. Please don't be. It wasn't. The big like rock ice cream cone with a red light in the middle that eats things. That's good. It wasn't that. It's not totally unique, as we'll see as the episode goes on, as this review continues. The Enterprise has to wire itself with copper wire because the communications in totality are down. Communicators don't work anymore. We have to figure out how to navigate the ship out of here, use the reaction thrusters to break ourselves free of this mess that we're in, with copper wiring, end-to-end connection, talking on phones, that is. You see, Pelia finally being really useful is very, very old. She remembers when phones were connected entirely over copper wire, and she has a collection of these things in her quarters. And it would have been really fun to spend more time in those quarters, but alas, the episode must continue. They needed a lot of copper wiring. Believe me, as somebody who has taken apart things like this in their real life, doing this in an emergency situation or under duress is not going to work. You're going to need a lot of copper wire to do this. There is no way there's enough of this in Pelia's room. A funny concept, talking to each other over phones, and it was funny to see on screen. And I was surprised how it worked out to not be super disbelief, suspension stretching. But we did, after all, need a way to communicate with each other, to operate these reaction control thrusters in person manually at each location. So we've got them wired up with joysticks and phones to talk to each other. End to end, we're talking to each other. I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, but can you do 50% more? Okay, I'll try. You know how it is. That's how we have to get the Enterprise out of here. But we also need the Farragut. You see, in our A-plot, the Farragut has decided to make themselves look like a banquet. We're going to give the enemy exactly what they want. How many times have you heard this before? Our enemy is feeding on something, so we need to look like we have a lot of it. Therefore, they'll come back and try to dine on us. We're going to make ourselves look delicious. Scott, I need you to make it look like we have a lot of aldentium. How do we do it? Aldentium decays and it gives off antiprotons. So if we flood the nacelles with antiprotons, it'll look like we're giving off the telltale sign of aldentium, and we're going to make ourselves look delicious. Therefore, the enemy ship returns and tries to digest, eat, capture, whatever they do, the Farragut. But the Farragut has other plans, you see. The Farragut engages impulse, flies around the ship, and then detaches its nacelles. As the tentacles follow the nacelles, which are flooded with antiprotons, the nacelles act like a missile to smash into the ship to disable it. Very cool. Way to go, Scott. Way to go, Uhura. Way to go, entire crew. Way to go, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. That's how we disable the enemy ship. Therefore, freeing the Enterprise, which is still trapped inside of it, as they get out, talking to each other on the phone like you do. Hey, can you do this with the thruster? Hey, can you do that? At the last moment, something goes wrong, and Una can't free one section of the ship, or they need a little bit more power, and they can't get it. They need a little bit more propulsion. They need a little bit more delta V. What they end up doing is blowing an airlock on... what side was that? I think it was from the port side. They blow the airlock, which is just enough propulsion to tilt the ship this way to get out. Very convenient, very hard to do, making me think about the mass of air in the airlock. What kind of reaction would you get out of that? Everything you do to one side, you do to the other, just like in math. This is Newton speaking. We do get out of this alien ship. We are free, and the Farragut did save us, as did James T. Kirk. Wow. Good job all around, guys. Just in time for a pep talk from Pike to James T. Kirk. But there's a secret. You see, these scavengers, which are connected an umbilical to our ship, in which Pike flooded the umbilical with baryons. We're giving them a baryon sweep here, guys. If you know, you know. That's how we, sabotage their connection and make them willingly disconnect from the ship. They were suck the juices out of the Enterprise. We flooded it with waste particles, baryons from the engineering hull. That's how we got them to disconnect. And these aliens, 2 legs, 2 arms, they saw Pike on the ground. The area was filled with toxic gas. Pike needed a mask. He lost his mask for a second. The alien saw him, startled, stepped back, and didn't shoot him. Meanwhile, in the Farragut, Spock is looking into that little thing. The life signs, there's 7,000 life signs on this ship that we just destroyed. Guess what? What do you think it is? They wouldn't shoot Pike. They're all humans. Wouldn't be the first time we saw that. A previous space mission gone wrong. Charybdis? Anybody? Actually, now that I think of it, scary aliens were revealed to just be humans only a few years ago in Discovery. New Trek has already done this. New Trek? I don't think so. This is Old Trek. And this is almost Old Trek because we got their old characters back. Sorry, this isn't Old Trek. Too soon? Anyway, just wait for Star Trek Year 1, as it were. You see, back in the briefing room, we debrief ourselves on the situation, and they show these human characters who had left the Earth past World War III, but before warp drive, to deal with the corroding environment of the Earth due to the aforementioned World War III. They were setting out to find their own strange new worlds, and they got lost at some point. You don't just get lost in space. You stick out like a Christmas tree wherever you are. So my theory on this, and you may think differently, again, another good sign that this is a good episode, good enough, is that I actually thought about it after the fact. It stayed in my mind. I ended up thinking about how these people, these 7,000 humans, and we did see the American flag on their ship, missing this 2 extra stars, I think. Shouldn't it have had 52 stars at this point? I don't know. Timelines being what they are, me disregarding them, since this is frankly its own timeline. As such, there's no way that Kirk wouldn't know Pike really well in TOS by this point. If this were in the same timeline, it's not. This ship, XCV-100, I was ecstatic when I saw it in the wreckage, but not so happy to see it destroyed. When this ship, the alien ship, was immediately destroyed, my immediate instinct was that, oh, that's bad. We just killed all those people. That sucks. James T. Kirk does indeed say to Pike that he didn't think of them as people in that moment. And it's kind of dark and kind of sad, and it's kind of human-centric, as Star Trek was in this era. Somehow, these humans from Earth, who left pre-warp travel, they got lost before warp drive was invented. And if you invented warp drive, you better believe you're going back to find these sublight ships and bring them home, bring them back into the fold, because these people were brave, industrious, and chose to leave at the soonest possible time rather than wait for a new breakthrough invention. These people were very brave, and they left the Earth, and in my theory, they got eaten by that gigantic machine. I don't think no human built that machine. I don't think they did. It doesn't look human to me. It doesn't feel human. I think they got eaten by it, the XCV-100, that is, which does look like the XCV-330, the ring ship that we all know and love. I love it anyway. Similar design lineage. Thankfully, it doesn't look exactly the same, because that would mean it probably has warp drive. They only showed like the primary hull, which I can understand having in common with the ring ship, because it's the same lineage. And that just being maybe the design language of that era, right before warp drive. I think these humans got captured by that thing. And I think what happened is that they somehow managed to take over the ship from the inside. That's what I think happened. And they lived in it. And in order to operate the ship, to keep themselves alive, they had to keep feeding it al dente. I think that's what happened. So our enemies, unfortunately, were humans. It would be just as unfortunate if they were some alien that was sentient just like us. But this time it's humans, and because of that, James T. Kirk gets to be all sad. They showed pictures of these people in spacesuits. I recognized the suit. I saw that suit somewhere else before, that environment suit that they were wearing. Makes me think. Really gets the noggin jogging. However, that's neither here nor there. What is here is that these aliens, these humans, have been defeated. Enterprise is free, Farragut is free, and Pike gets to talk to James T. Kirk about command. What do you say? The usual things? You're going to have to make hard decisions. Oh no. You're going to have to send people to their death. Oh no. Like I said, there's nothing new here. Once again, proving there's nothing new under the sun, that was the Salat who ate its tail. A good episode. Unfortunately, coming up against the wall of being a prequel. You can only be so good when you're not inventing new things. I did like that we had an enemy here that was not the Doomsday Machine. It was not the Borg. Unfortunately, it was another doomed human mission from the past. We've seen like 3 by now. And could you have predicted it? Maybe. I didn't really predict it, but I wasn't happy when it happened. I would have been probably just as happy if it was just some random alien, to be honest. It being humans, it felt like a kind of an unnecessary emotional heart pull at the very last minute, trying to pluck my little Purkinje fibers I think they have in my heart or whatever. I'm not a heart scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just an engineer, not a doctor. Anyway, not really hurting an otherwise good episode. Plot-wise, I was engaged. The sign of a good plot is every scene affects every scene that comes after it. So there's no pointless scenes. Every scene is setting up our strategy. What are we going to do? How are we going to win? How are we going to move forward? And it seems to be staying on the ball with that. This is a story that's locked in and engaged. We're not dangling a whole bunch of little plot threads in front of you. We're not trying to get you to stay subscribed, which is a big plus right now at this point in time. Thematically, wins. Like I said before, biting off more than you can chew. James T. Kirk wished for risk. He got it. The big alien ship asked for al dente. Well, they got what they wanted in the form of anti-protons, nacelles smashing into the ship, and then Spock firing torpedoes into them. You got what you wanted. You bite off more than you can chew. This is your just desserts, to use more idiomatic speech for you. Like I said before, we're winning plot, we're winning theme, and we're theme, like I said, is firing on all cylinders here. Musically, this is where we're dropping the ball. You'd think if you had James T. Kirk in command with all our classic characters, you would really be hammering home the classic music, but we didn't. Normally that would be good. I'd say, oh look, we're being original. We're not. There's not the original. The music you were thinking would be there is replaced with nothing. It's another deaf episode. To be sure, visually very cool. When you got ships on screen, I'm gonna love it, right? When you got the Enterprise and the Farragut on screen, I'm gonna be having a good time. We even see the D7 on screen as they discover the wreckage of the Klingons, who not even they could escape the clutches of this enemy vessel. So we're winning on that front. Although the enemy ship, as is standard now for New Trek, it's just bad. It's overly complicated. It's verbose in its design, and it's just confusing, and it's unnecessarily scary. We're going to build a ship to be scary. Why? I don't know. That's the logic. I don't know. We don't know why it's scary. It just is. That's why it has big teeth, and it looks like it's got a skull built into its face, into its body in a way that you just eat us. So if we're winning on most fronts, what's the score going to be? I know you guys are waiting with bated breath. I'm going to have to go ahead and give this episode of Strange New Worlds, Season 3, that being Episode 6, The Salat Who Ate Its Tail, that saber-toothed bear thing from Vulcan that ate its tail, I'm going to have to go ahead and give this episode a very good 6.5. I was engaged. I watched it again. I wasn't falling asleep, and I'm probably coming back to it. That's about all I can say for this. Like I said before, what's keeping us from that mythical 7? It's not new. It's derivative. It has its own contrivances to speak of. You know, this is the power of good script, good directing, a good idea, a good storyboard, having our characters stay on the ball. This is the power of it. You can just get a watchable episode that unfortunately can't get over that barrier into the great territory, but it can damn well be good. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm going to see you next time I see you. So long.